Give me the third clap.
We're going to talk The Conjuring from 2013, and believe it or not, I haven't actually reviewed this movie. I reviewed the second two, but not this one, and this has just been released on 4K, so we'll have a quick look at that and we'll talk about the film. And obviously you've got the fourth movie, The Last Rites, coming out this year too, in a couple of weeks. I believe I will review this, but yes, this has just been released on 4K. I've just got a 4K player, and this actually has a couple of kind of special features on it, so we'll talk about that quickly. A few features called Scariest of Them All, Reflections on the Conjuring, The Conjuring Face to Face with Fear, and A Life in Demonology, scaring the shit out of you. So some interesting sounding special features there, and this has also been released on a steelbook and a kind of collector's edition super deluxe steelbook as well. So let's talk The Conjuring. Okay, so a question I often get kind of asked in conversation, because I do this channel, is what's a good introductory horror movie? And I've seen a lot of people say a variety of different things, but it normally comes down to, from other people's opinions, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but I say The Conjuring, because if it's someone's introduction, you want a movie which isn't super violent, isn't super gory, but is scary and has that element of horror in it, like a creepier movie, but without kind of maybe the violence and the bloodshed that maybe a lot of people kind of recommend. So The Conjuring, to me, whenever anyone says what is a good introductory horror movie, that is my answer, the original Conjuring. And I have actually watched this movie with a few people multiple times. I've seen this movie about 6 or 7 times now. This is directed by James Wan and stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as real-life paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. So this is based on their accounts, and obviously this is a sort of exaggerated version, you might say. In this particular movie, obviously we're introduced to the Warrens, and they are asked to investigate this house. This has been recently purchased by this couple with a bunch of kids, and they are being harassed by some type of paranormal force. They can't afford to move, and when Ed and Lorraine Warren show up, they immediately detect that there is some spooky shenanigans going on, and it could be the ghost of this witch that is now attached itself to this family. What will happen? If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. So, let's discuss. James Wan, after this and some other projects that he's been involved in, has really become a kind of horror icon. I know he's gone on to direct, things like Aquaman and stuff, but I think he's best known and best loved for his horror movies. And to me, The Conjuring movie, and I know there's people that don't like this movie, but to me, the Conjuring is like a masterclass in spooky horror, because this really is quite a creepy movie. I think the pace of it is slow, but it's engaging enough where you kind of are going along for the ride. I think our performances from our 2 lead actors, and you've got some good recognisable actors in this movie, as well as our 2 leads in supporting roles as well, do an absolutely fantastic job of sucking you into these kind of characters and, going along for the ride with them. Now, say what you will about the real life Ed and Lorraine Warren. I know they have their detractors and a lot of people think they're frauds, but this is the movie. We're not talking about the real life. We're talking about this movie and how it is to be viewed and to be enjoyed. So yes, it's based on the real life case of Ed and Lorraine Warren, but let's discuss it how it plays as a film. And I think it's a really, really good horror film. I think the slow pace of this movie and the build up, but you definitely know something's there. And this movie has quite a lot of things that it peppers through the movie. It's not saving itself up right to the end. In actual fact, I think probably it's spookier in the first 2 acts than it is in the third. But those scarier elements, it takes its time to kind of really ruminate and build up this kind of atmosphere, is fantastic. The cinematography, this kind of, I mean, I think James Wan has definitely a kind of a directorial style. I've even seen like kind of other directors kind of ape his style. A low budget movie director that I really enjoyed, Perry Reginald Teo, I think is very influenced by James Wan. And but yeah, he has that kind of that sort of stylistic kind of visual flair that I think sort of comes through without being sort of experimental or surreal or anything like that. So I do think the movie, the way it's shot looks great. I think the performances look great and you know, and come across particularly well, particularly kind of likeable, even though our supporting characters as well. I think the scares are, for the most part, extremely well done, and they take their time in kind of, you know, building the audience up. I think the soundtrack is, you know, arguably you could say it cheats a little bit and has these kind of like big, like, loud noises and stuff. But I think it's very kind of affecting, and works kind of really well and kind of gives you that kind of creepy element. And this movie has a genuine kind of feel of like foreboding and dread and just all kind of creep you out. It isn't the most violent movie. There's actually no deaths in this movie. It's one of the few horror movies where no one actually dies. But nonetheless, I still think it is enough to kind of be quite a scary movie. And as I say, I think it's a great introduction to anyone who's unfamiliar with horror movies. It's going to be one which isn't going to kind of scar them and stuff. And you know, but it still will affect them. It will still be creepy. And I think it's done so well. And obviously you've got the kind of like the little side mission with Annabelle, which of course spun off this whole kind of Conjuring universe, which ultimately has variable quality, shall we call it. But nonetheless, I think this movie is a fantastic horror film. I do think it's a really strong movie, expertly directed, expertly acted, some real creepy moments, and this is going to be a high recommend for me. Do I have any critiques? As I've kind of mentioned, I think the finale is not as interesting as the first 2 acts when we kind of get our kind of possession, so to speak. It's not quite as interesting as I think as the build up to the kind of that point. Maybe it relies a little bit too much on kind of jump scares. I do think the movie does have a lot of kind of creepy atmosphere and foreboding, you know, elements to it. But yes, it does have a few jump scares, which I know some people don't really like. Yes, the music does cheat a little bit. I think having these kind of loud, kind of like bursts that will kind of add to that jump scare, you know. And I do think I think maybe the Annabelle kind of like B plot, sometimes I think it threatens to kind of outshine the main protagonist in this kind of this witch. And I think obviously Annabelle had its own kind of spin-off after this, but sometimes I think that they maybe lean a little bit too much into that. And it was good for that kind of that 007 sort of opening mission, but I kind of wish they had left it alone for the rest of the movie. Overall though, this is a great movie. This is one of my favourite horror movies. I know it has its detractors. I know the hardcore kind of like gory horror fans don't really like this one, but I do. I think this is a strong movie, and as I say, a strong movie to kind of show people if they aren't too familiar with horror movies. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. What were your thoughts on the original Conjuring? And are you going to go and see The Last Rites? I am expecting to review that at some point. Anyway, I look forward to speaking to you on the comments, and bye for now.